Okay, well, thank you, everybody. That's four interesting stories. It seems to me that Evan's daughter needed to go out with that lemonade stand and fall flat in her face, but now she only knows success, so she'll have to deal with that. So I'm going to ask each one of the panelists to answer a few questions, and I'd like for you folks to take over from there. But each one of you have had some experience in different ways, and I'd like each one of you maybe to take this quickly and give me a response to that. What inspired you to start a new business, and how did the idea come about?
I'm a strong believer that entrepreneurism is a state of mind, and you can be a very successful entrepreneur by changing business processes. Again, it's all towards having a better outcome, not about disrupting the environment just to be entrepreneurial. So I feel I've been very entrepreneurial without even trying to be so. And if I was in college, if I had been in college back then, I don't think I would have come to the seminar because I never thought of myself as an entrepreneur in traditional sense, which is put your own money in a business, start the business, that sort of thing. But I ended up working in small and large companies, and then from the venture capital perspective, seeing lots of companies being built up from scratch, obviously not with my money, but with money I felt very responsible for. I always tell people when they don't find with their own money, would you put your own money in? And if it's a drug, would you give it to your mother or your child? Those are sort of the litmus tests, because I think if you treat any business that you're involved with, whether it's a small biotech startup or a large, you're the head of a large department in a large organization, if you treat it like it's your own, so you want it to excel and perform, then I think you're being an entrepreneur, and it improves the business processes or the final product or the productivity. And I think I've had many ideas over the years about, okay, why are we doing it this way? I never was happy with the status quo. Oh, this is the way that's always been. That answer really always irritated me. But why has it been that way? Let's just look at it and see maybe we can make it better, faster, fewer people, more efficient, fewer handoffs, many ways to make it better. So I think for me, a lot of it had to do with always kind of being able to deconvolute the story and maybe put it together in a way that made it simpler or better or more appropriate for the environment.
I mean, I'm not that bright, and I went to law school. I became a lawyer. And my father, as I said, founded Best Doctors. And after I worked for 6 years as an attorney, I was not feeling inspired by what we were doing. And when I came to Best Doctors, we had 7 employees. We were a tiny little company with really no clear future at all. This was back in 1999. And I just wanted to get out of being, it's not that I wanted to get out of being an attorney because I liked it. I needed something else. And my father was like, look, we got this business. I'm not really sure what's going to happen, but get some experience and do it. And I came in, and I've got a great partner in the business who works with me on creating things, and we really recreated the business. We restarted it, so to speak. And the idea was always that, look, every single person is entitled to get the right care, the right diagnosis and treatment, and we do that, and we can help people do it. And it helps you when you have that that vision, that mission, that feeling like you're doing something important to get through all the horrible times that you face as an entrepreneur. And there's a lot of them, but you need that unshakable belief. And in my experience, what my problem was in being in the big organization was that there wasn't exactly something to believe in. And being an entrepreneur, you can create that for yourself.
Well, as I said, my first entrepreneurial venture was really not it wasn't supposed to be that way. But subsequent ventures have been all about making something better than what you thought it was going to be, and having a great time doing it. So, really, I think there's also that moment to say you made a mark somewhere is that, with especially in where I am. I'm in the community. My job is to really sit there and touch people and make a difference within that particular community. It's, I don't have a big global mission that I'm going to affect the world, but I'm affecting that community that I'm in. And that's really where my drive on the entrepreneur side is, within my community, to make a difference, so that if, for some reason I'm not there anymore, there was something missing. And I guess that's really, the driver on my side, is to sit there and say, okay, I've used all my skills in the best possible way to help a certain number of people. And that's it.
So my mom actually inspired me to start a company called CaseNet. My mom is a nurse case manager, and I didn't have a clinical background, but I saw her struggling with lots of paper and huge records and antiquated care management systems. And when I saw that, I just started chatting with her, and she said, oh, if you could go and solve something and produce some software to help this out, that would be tremendous gift to nurses. So I started a company, grew the company to about 150 people, and focused on nurse care management software, case management, disease management, utilization management. And that was my inspiration.
Let me throw a couple of individual questions at you, and then we'll go to the audience. Christina, what special obstacles do women have in starting a business?
I have not started businesses in the traditional sense. I'm not saying there aren't any, but I have not felt like I've encountered obstacles in my career as a woman. I believe strongly that competence drives everything, and an environment of excellence will be recognized regarding of gender or other personal characteristics. I talk to a lot of young women, and I tell them, never play the woman's card. It doesn't even play with me. I do understand that there's perhaps more of a glass ceiling in other areas, but I think I've always been a strong believer in work hard and you're going to get back what you put in. And I never expected to put in less because I was a woman, and I never felt I was handicapped. If anything, I felt it helped in a number of actually situations where I worked in very male-dominated fields, such as venture capital, where I was often the only woman in the room. And it differentiates you a little bit. Again, I come back, for me, it's always about the silver lining. And people remember you because you were one of very few. And similarly, when I got into drug development and I started running these worldwide projects, I remember running a huge investigator meeting in Paris with sites from all over the world. And I had met all the clinicians before I was directing the program. And one professor from Germany, her professor, came to me and said, "Dear, could you change my travel arrangements for me?" He was convinced I was a meeting planner because I was a woman and I was too young. And it turned out to be a very cute thing that we joked about for many years after. And I said, "I'll be happy to get the meeting planner. I'm your next speaker. I'm running the meeting." So I think people remember you, and I think that the best thing to do is not to get defensive or bitter or anything about it, and take the high road. That's the best thing I can tell women. Take the high road and you'll get there. And if some people just continue not to be nice and they're just kind of jerks about it, then you'll just take the high road and enough people recognize your competence and your skills. So for me, I don't believe it's ever been a gender issue.
Okay, Brett, excluding one of your many companies you've started.
But you're asking what's like to be a woman?
No. Yeah, if you want to comment on that, you can go ahead. No, but excluding one of your companies, what companies or businesses do you admire the most?
Interesting. When I look at healthcare, I've started 2 companies in healthcare domain, and I see healthcare technology just really getting very exciting. There's a company called HealthSpot, and HealthSpot creates something called a Care for Station. It's a large booth that would be placed in a pharmacy or maybe a retail outlet, and it allows a patient to actually go in, and there's think of it like a Skype-like access to a primary care physician, and they actually have a lot of tools inside that you would use, like an otoscope, a pulse oximeter, blood pressure cuff, so that you could actually interact with a primary care physician in a remote area, really at almost any time that you need to. And if there is a prescription involved, it's in a pharmacy, you can actually go right to the pharmacy and fill a prescription. So it's lowering the cost and increasing the access for patients. And that company, I think, is really one to watch.
Excellent. Hey, Greg, let me ask you this. You talked about the number of companies you started, and sometimes you put up your own money, but can you tell us some of the different ways you've financed some of those ideas?
Okay, so you heard the easy first one, that, I had my own money. Having your own money is awesome when you can do it, because you really could declare the deal. I mean, because really cash talks, okay? And that's great if that's possible, because you work when it's your money and you're spending it, I mean, there aren't enough hours in the day. I mean, you're just going. I mean, because you want your money back, okay? And you want more than your money back, okay? At least I would think you would. Now, I've also done deals, and now, in fact, all the pharmacies that I start up with now, I don't use my own money. Okay, you talk about using your own money, and you can get the best deal. But what I really started now to look at, and especially in this environment, if I'm working my tail off behind the bench and putting in the hours, and I'm buying product from all these vendors, well, you know what? They win too, and they're not here at night. When I look around, I'm the only guy there, and now I use my vendors to get involved with the transaction. So I'm sitting there and, I do the work up front to say, okay, what do I think is going to be the volume that's going to come out of this? What do I project to see, the targets we're going to hit as far as sales? I can then back it out and say, okay, this is going to be this much cost of goods. I can then reflect back to the vendor to say, how much money are you going to make, okay, for me working hard, okay? So as long as I'm going to sit there and guarantee your money in a relatively, timely fashion, I want you to put up the money to help me to get into business, okay? So I'll put in the time, but I want you to put up the dollars. And you don't have, they can put up dollars like, you look at a pharmacy, you start up a pharmacy, you're probably looking at $450,000 worth of inventory. That's a substantial amount of money if you want to come out of your pocket to set up a pharmacy, okay, and to be there and prepared. But if you sat there and said to your wholesaler and said, hey, you're going to put the drugs in, and I'm not going to start paying you for the first 6 months, because first of all, it's going to take me 3 months to start getting people into the pharmacy, and then it's going to take 3 months before all the, the third-party carriers that, decide they want to pay you, to come in. So 6 months from now, I'm going to start seeing some money come in. That's when we're going to start talking about paying you. So I think there's a lot of avenues that you sit there and you start looking at and saying, how do you finance the business? Do you go and get your computer company? You know what, I'm buying, $35,000, $40,000 worth of computer equipment. Well, you know what, I'm going to pay you, but, this thing is, it's a sunk cost for them that's cheap. They can get it in there, and we can talk about financing the transaction over a period of time. You don't have to come up with your money, all your money. You're really coming in with your time, which is outrageously valuable. Now, you can, one of the things that, where I'm successful in doing that is I've already shown them that we've had previous success to it. So, they know that I'm not just, just talking off the top of my head about what I see as volume, but you can, right out of school, you could sit there and identify a neighborhood and identify what, if you wanted to take care of the geriatric population, and that every senior uses at minimum of 8 drugs, probably 10, and you could sit there and develop that marketplace. Well, it's not very hard to develop where your business model is going to be real quickly. So I think, having your own cash is great. Getting people, to give you money is great. The problem is, though, on that side of it, if you have debt coming in, debt for a new business is awful, okay? Debt is awful. You want to get rid of it as quickly as possible. Later on in your business cycle, debt will be a tax it will be a tax game. But, I think looking at it and looking at your idea, certainly the financial aspect is going to be huge right off the get-go. But it is not a hurdle if you sit there and do enough planning right up front to identify where you're going to get your business from. So that's what I've seen.
Thank you. Evan, it's great to hear your company's hitting $100 million in revenue now. That's a terrific story. And we heard Christina say earlier that there's no substitute for having good people and good talent on the inside in particular. But on the outside, what kind of outsiders have been most important for you to grow Best Doctors?
Clients.
Paying clients?
Well, I mean, that is, at the end of the day, if you're not selling anything, you're doomed. So you need clients. You need to treat them really, really well. And the truth is, you also need to listen to them, right? I mean, they're the ones. You may have the most wonderful idea in the world, and I'm sure all of you have different ones swimming around in your head. And you may find other people that are willing to listen to your idea and say, I'm in for that. But when you go out there into the market and try to sell it, and the client looks at you and says, not only is this not interesting to me, but I tried this 5 years ago and it failed, so you got anything else? Are you going to be able to have that reality? So clients are really important for a lot of reasons. The second thing, it doesn't matter who your mentors are. I mean, clearly, if you're associated with here, I guess you can get access to a mentor. Take advantage of people that have been there before. I can sit here and I can give you a little, pieces of advice on specific issues, but they may not matter to where you are. You're going to run into issues as an entrepreneur that you can't think of now, that you won't be able to think of while you're in them. But there are other people who've been there, and they're very happy to share their advice. All of us have. Well, I'll speak for myself. I've screwed up really badly many times. Those are great learning experiences. And if you could tell me I want to do the following thing, and I could tell you, listen, this is what you need to think about. One type of mentor to stay away from is the perpetual naysayer. There's a lot of those out there. They're either perhaps jealous of the fact that you've left the corporate world, or they're just naysayers. It can't be done. You can't build a railroad across the country. It's too far. I'm sure there are lots of ideas that you can't make. Facebook, none of you would believe people like that, but if you're surrounded by them all the time, that's going to get inside of your head, and you got enough problems. So stay away from the bad people, get close to the good people, and take care of your clients.